R. Kelly is back in a New York City federal courtroom today as opening statements get underway in one of the criminal trials he faces. This case stems from years of allegations of sexual abuse. Kelly faces racketeering and other charges for an alleged plot involving illegal sexual activity with women and underage girls. Jericka Duncan is at the Brooklyn courthouse with details.
You know, Laura, some people will say this trial was years in the making. We've heard from numerous women who say they were abused by R. Kelly, but his legal team says there's another side to this story and that side will finally be heard starting today.
Remix to ignition, hot and fresh out the kitchen. Step in the name of love.
R. Kelly's music topped the charts for decades, and at times he seemed unstoppable. The R&B star won 3 Grammys just a few years after he married then 15-year-old singer Aaliyah. At the time of their marriage, Kelly was 27. Then, in 2002, Kelly was charged with making a sex tape with a 14-year-old. A jury found him not guilty 6 years later. Kelly continued to make more music and more money.
I feel like justice for me is just, it's just been about me being a silence breaker in this.
On the radio, I'm gonna hook you up.
Former radio DJ Kitty Jones says Kelly physically, emotionally, and sexually abused her when they dated back in 2011.
Was there a part of you that was afraid to say something?
Yeah, that's a part of it. I didn't fit the profile. People that knew me knew that I would never have been in a situation like that because I had so much going for me.
Jones was among a handful of women who described life under Kelly's control in the 2019 docuseries Surviving R. Kelly.
Being on punishment could be either you're not getting food or you took a beating.
People betray me, and I keep forgiving them.
That same year, Kelly sat down with Gayle King.
Have you done anything wrong?
Lots of things wrong when it comes to women that I apologize, but I apologize in those relationships at the time I was in the relationships.
Have you broken any laws when it comes to women?
Absolutely not. And
4 months after that interview, Kelly was arrested for federal sex crimes in Chicago and New York. In July, the 54-year-old was transferred to Brooklyn, where he will now stand trial for allegedly running a criminal enterprise for 2 decades involving sex trafficking of women and underage girls. Kelly's legal team tells CBS News the enterprise is based on a series of independent relationships and events that the government is trying to patch together like different types of fabrics and trying to pass it off as silk. As for Jones, she says her focus is on the survivors.
My hope is just for everyone to get a peace of mind finally, process their hurts.
Kelly faces 10 years to life in prison if convicted on all charges in the New York case. Now, several women are expected to testify over the next month, which is how long this trial is expected to last. Laura?
Jericka, thank you. And joining me now to discuss this highly anticipated trial is CBS News legal analyst Rikki Klieman. Rikki, what can we expect from today's opening statements?
I think you're going to hear from the prosecution for approximately an hour and a half, and they are going to lay out a sordid tale with shocking acts of exploitation of women and young girls. They've charged him with the most serious of crimes, which is a RICO violation, which means a racketeering, influence, corrupt organization. And he's portrayed in simple English as the ringleader of a group of people, including his employees and enablers, who would get these women and young girls, bring them to him after sometimes he chose them at concerts and events. And these girls and women were then allegedly kidnapped. They were placed in apartments or where he lived. They were put in rooms. They had to wear baggy clothes. When they were not with him, they were not able to eat or go to the bathroom without his permission. So in this way, he's being charged with being a mastermind of exploitation and trafficking. So I expect the tale from the opening statement of the prosecutor to lay out each of the offenses, and it will really be something that will shock any person who is in that courtroom.
Yeah, shocking is right. Those allegations, something like a sex slavery camp that he was holding in his home. We know that this is not his first time in trouble with the law. He was acquitted of child pornography charges back in 2008. What is different about this trial, and who will testify now?
Well, the whole issue, Laura, as you just used the word, is testify. What happened in the first trial back at the acquittal of 2008 was that the victim herself and her parents did not testify. So they were in a position as prosecutors to try to prove a case without a victim. Here, that is not so. We expect a number of alleged victims to testify in this case over a period of weeks. And when you hear the words from the victims about what happened to them, that creates a very different atmosphere, to say the least. We also do have to remember that R. Kelly, as any defendant, is presumed innocent unless and until a verdict of guilty would come forth. And as Jericka mentioned in her piece before I came on with you, the R. Kelly lawyers claim to have a very viable defense, that they say that the media has portrayed R. Kelly as being this monster, but that the facts about who he is and was and who these women were and are will happen in the courtroom. You know, we lawyers say that the great engine of truth is cross-examination. So whether the defense is giving us facts that we will see come alive in the courtroom, or whether it's just spin and bravado, that remains to be seen.
Let's talk a little bit about the people who are going to be determining R. Kelly's fate, the jurors. And what do we know about them? What do you think they're going to be hearing as testimony begins?
What we do know is that there are 7 men and 5 women. What we also know, which may be surprising to many, is that most of these jurors, if not all of these jurors, who were finally chosen in a 3-day process, someone might have thought with the person of R. Kelly's fame that the jury selection process would have taken 3 weeks rather than 3 days. But most of these people really didn't know much about R. Kelly, even as a musician, and they certainly knew little or nothing about these charges. So you have a jury that is fresh and new, and that may be a good thing.
Rikki, thank you so much for your analysis.
Thank you, Laura.